For nearly 2 decades, Savannah Guthrie has been one of the most trusted faces in American morning television. Millions of viewers welcomed her into their homes each day, relying on her calm presence to guide them through the world's most urgent headlines. But now, the spotlight has turned in a direction no one expected. Instead of delivering the news, she has become the story itself. And so a question lingers, one no one wants to ask, yet everyone is quietly considering. What really happened to her mother, and why does this case feel so different from every other missing person story? Because this isn't simply about a disappearance. It is about unanswered questions, silent technology, missing evidence, millions of dollars in ransom demands, and a timeline that seems to resist logic. It is a story filled with shadows, each one raising more questions than answers. The night everything changed. On a quiet street in Tucson, Arizona, where the desert air carries a stillness that often feels timeless, 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie followed her usual evening routine. She checked her doors, prepared her medication, and spoke briefly with family before heading to bed. Nothing appeared unusual. Nothing suggested danger. Yet by morning, her home had transformed from a peaceful residence into an active crime scene. Police tape stretched across the driveway. Investigators moved carefully through the property. Volunteers searched nearby streets, desert brush, and neighboring yards. The hum of helicopters replaced the ordinary quiet of the neighborhood. One neighbor, unable to offer anything but support, placed a handmade sign near the front lawn, "Dear Guthrie family, your neighbors stand with you." The message, simple yet heartfelt, became a symbol of shared grief and uncertainty. For Savannah and her siblings, Annie and Cameron, that sign represented one of the few things that still felt stable in a rapidly collapsing world. But inside the house, investigators discovered something deeply unsettling. There was blood on the front porch. The security system had been disabled. Nancy's phone, wallet, and smartwatch remained inside. And so the first chilling question emerged. How does someone vanish without taking anything? Not even the essentials, especially in the middle of the night. The digital clues that don't add up. As investigators reconstructed the timeline, the case grew more disturbing. At precisely 1:47 a.m., Nancy's front door camera went offline. It had not malfunctioned. It had been physically removed. The mount remained attached to the wall, but the device itself had disappeared. 25 minutes later, another camera detected motion near the side of the house. But no video existed. Nancy had never activated a paid storage subscription, meaning only a digital notification was recorded, proof of movement without evidence of what caused it. Then came the most haunting detail. At 2:28 a.m., Nancy's pacemaker disconnected from the monitoring application on her phone. Medical experts explained that such devices typically lose connection only when moved beyond a certain range or deliberately interfered with. Investigators began to suspect this moment marked the exact point she was forcibly taken from the property. The implications were chilling. Technology designed to ensure safety had instead silently documented a crime. So another question arose. Was technology meant to protect her, or did it merely bear witness to her disappearance? When a missing case became a kidnapping. Nancy was not officially reported missing until 11 a.m., when she failed to appear for her weekly online church service. Concerned relatives attempted to reach her repeatedly. When there was no response, they rushed to her home and contacted authorities. Within 24 hours, investigators reclassified the case from a missing person report to a kidnapping investigation. Then came the ransom demand. A chilling email arrived at a local news station, demanding $4 million in Bitcoin. If the payment deadline passed, the amount would rise to $6 million. The message included detailed descriptions of Nancy's home layout and personal habits, information unlikely to be known by an outsider. The sender claimed Nancy was alive but frightened. The tone of the message was calculated, deliberate, and strangely detached. It read less like panic and more like negotiation. This shifted the investigation dramatically. If the motive was financial, why remove the security cameras? Why risk such careful planning for a ransom demand that would inevitably attract massive law enforcement attention? And if money was not the true objective, why demand it at all? Savannah's public plea. In the days that followed, Savannah released a video message across social media platforms. Speaking directly to whoever had taken her mother, she pleaded for compassion. Her voice was composed, yet beneath the calm delivery was unmistakable anguish. She requested proof of life. She explained that Nancy required daily heart medication. She promised that the family would cooperate fully and never stop searching. The video spread rapidly, drawing global attention and sympathy. Viewers saw not a news anchor, but a daughter confronting unimaginable fear. A few days later, a second message appeared. This one was quieter, slower, heavier with emotion. Observers noted subtle changes in language, less hope, more urgency, and a tone that some described as quietly resigned. Former hostage negotiators later analyzed the recording, suggesting the shift in tone reflected evolving information behind the scenes. Which raised yet another troubling question. Did the family already know something the public did not? A masked figure at the door. More than a week into the investigation, authorities recovered previously inaccessible data from cloud storage systems connected to Nancy's home security network. The recovered footage revealed a masked figure approaching the front door shortly before the camera went offline. The individual wore gloves and carried a backpack. Their movements were calm, deliberate, and precise. They removed the camera methodically. No hesitation. No visible panic. Afterward, the figure walked away at an unhurried pace. Nearby, investigators later discovered a pair of black gloves abandoned near a drainage area. The gloves were submitted for DNA testing, though results remained inconclusive. The evidence suggested careful planning. This was not an impulsive act. Which prompted a deeply unsettling question. Was Nancy specifically targeted, or was she simply the victim of calculated opportunity? The role of technology. Cybersecurity experts soon revealed an important detail about modern surveillance systems. Even without active subscriptions, many devices temporarily upload short video fragments to cloud servers before automatic deletion. These fragments may remain briefly in what specialists call transient storage. This is how investigators recovered the masked figure's footage, not from Nancy's phone, but from hidden back-end systems. In a strange twist of fate, the very technology that failed to prevent the crime may now be the only reason investigators know someone was present. Yet the most crucial piece of evidence, the physical camera itself, remains missing. And without it, key forensic data may be lost forever. Theories from the experts. Criminal investigators and analysts began offering possible explanations. One theory suggested a professional kidnapping operation. The ransom demand, precise timing, and controlled communication supported this idea. Another possibility was a burglary gone wrong, an intruder expecting an empty home who encountered Nancy unexpectedly and reacted in panic. But a third theory proved the most disturbing, a targeted operation involving prior knowledge of Nancy's identity, routine, and security vulnerabilities. Experts emphasized that the case defied typical patterns. The coordination, technological interference, and calm execution all suggested planning rather than impulse. So the question persisted, was this random or deeply personal? The husband in the shadows. As public scrutiny intensified, attention quietly shifted toward Savannah's husband, Michael Feldman. Reports surfaced suggesting he possessed professional connections within legal and governmental circles, connections that some speculated could influence aspects of the investigation. No evidence of wrongdoing emerged. Authorities made no accusations. Yet in an environment fueled by uncertainty, speculation spread rapidly. Online discussions questioned whether his silence represented protection of family privacy, or knowledge withheld from the public. In cases defined by mystery, even absence of information can become a source of suspicion. But speculation alone offers no answers. A community in waiting. Weeks passed. Then months. Search teams continued their work across vast desert terrain. Volunteers distributed flyers, organized vigils, and maintained a visible presence in the community. Churches held prayer services. Neighbors kept porch lights on through the night. Nancy's home remained eerily still, a place frozen in time, filled with unanswered questions. For Savannah, life became a delicate balance between public responsibility and private anguish. Each morning she returned to the studio, delivering headlines with professional composure. Yet behind the scenes, the search for her mother never stopped. How does one report the world's tragedies while living through one of their own? The weight of uncertainty. Perhaps the most painful element of the case is not what is known, but what remains unknown. What happened in those 41 minutes between the first camera's disappearance and the pacemaker's disconnection? Who sent the ransom email, and why did communication suddenly cease? Where is the missing camera, and what evidence might it hold? And most importantly, where is Nancy Guthrie? The absence of answers has created a void filled with speculation, fear, and relentless hope. Families of missing persons often describe uncertainty as its own form of suffering, a space where grief and hope coexist without resolution. Where the case stands now. As of today, the facts remain stark. Nancy Guthrie has not been found. No arrests have been made. Ransom communications have gone silent. The removed camera remains missing. And the timeline still refuses to make sense. Yet the story continues, not just as an investigation, but as a reflection of vulnerability in a world increasingly shaped by technology, visibility, and public scrutiny. Because beneath the mystery lies a universal truth: this could happen to anyone. A quiet night. A familiar home. A life interrupted without warning. And so the questions remain, echoing through headlines, conversations, and quiet moments of reflection. Was this a carefully orchestrated crime or a tragic accident spiraling out of control? Did someone watch and plan for months, or was the opportunity discovered by chance? And somewhere, perhaps in a place still unknown, does Nancy Guthrie wait to be found? Until those questions are answered, the case remains suspended in uncertainty, a story without an ending, a search without closure, and a mystery that continues to haunt everyone who hears it. Which leads to the final, haunting question. If someone could walk up to a front door, disable a camera, remove an elderly woman from her own home, and disappear without a trace, what does that say about how safe any of us really are? This case is no longer just about one missing person. It has become a story about how fragile modern security really is, how easily technology can fail, and how quickly an ordinary night can turn into a mystery with no clear ending. An 84-year-old grandmother went to sleep in her own home. By morning, she was gone. No screams were captured. No usable footage was saved. No clear answers have ever emerged. Only questions. And the most unsettling part is this: what if the truth is not dramatic, not cinematic, and not even planned? What if everything went wrong in ways no one expected? A crime that doesn't fit the pattern. When investigators and analysts began breaking down the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, one thing stood out immediately. The case does not behave like a typical kidnapping. There were ransom demands, but instead of being sent directly to the family, they were sent to the media. That alone raised red flags. Why would abductors risk exposure instead of negotiating quietly? Why involve news outlets at all? Former investigators and crime analysts have pointed out that in real abduction cases, speed is everything. The family is usually contacted quickly. Pressure is applied. Negotiations begin almost immediately. That didn't happen here. Instead, what emerged looked disorganized. The supposed abduction itself appeared precise and controlled, yet the follow-up felt chaotic and improvised. So which is it? A professional operation? Or a situation that spiraled out of control? And more importantly, what really happened inside that house? The uncomfortable theory nobody wants to face. One theory, described as thinking outside the box, suggests something far more disturbing and far more human. What if Nancy wasn't kidnapped at all? What if she suffered a medical emergency? Experts have proposed that the shock of someone entering her home could have triggered a heart attack, stroke, or cardiac arrest. Nancy was known to have heart issues. Fear alone can push the body into failure, especially at that age. If that happened, the entire situation changes. What began as a break-in or robbery suddenly becomes a death scene. And if the intruders never intended to kill anyone, panic would set in instantly. Now they're no longer just criminals. They're people standing over a body, trying to decide what to do next. Would they call for help? Or would they try to cover it up? That possibility explains several strange details: the long time spent inside the house, the lack of immediate contact with the family, and the strangely handled ransom demands afterward. It suggests not a master plan, but a desperate reaction. Was she even the target? Another deeply unsettling possibility is that Nancy was never meant to be involved at all. Former agents have recalled countless cases where criminals entered the wrong house. They believed they were targeting someone else, drugs, cash, valuables, and instead encountered an innocent person who wasn't supposed to be there. Wrong address. Wrong person. Right, tragedy. In those situations, things turn violent fast. Victims resist. Criminals panic. Outcomes change in seconds. Could Nancy have simply been awake when she wasn't supposed to be? Could this entire case be the result of a mistake? If so, the ransom notes might not even be part of the original crime. They may have been an afterthought, a way to exploit a situation that had already gone horribly wrong. And that raises an even darker question. What if the people responsible never intended to kidnap anyone at all? When coincidence becomes suspicion. As the case unfolded, public attention exploded, not just because a grandmother vanished, but because of who her daughter is. Nancy Guthrie is the mother of Savannah Guthrie, one of the most recognizable faces in American journalism. And the timing of Nancy's disappearance couldn't have been more controversial. Just days earlier, the U.S. Department of Justice released millions of pages connected to convicted sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. Almost immediately, online users began making connections. Savannah had been one of the journalists who interviewed Epstein's victims back in 2019. Those interviews were powerful, emotional, and widely viewed. Survivors spoke publicly for the first time about abuse, trafficking, and powerful people. So when Nancy vanished right as Epstein-related documents resurfaced, the internet did what it always does. It connected dots, even when those dots might not belong together. The husband who became part of the story. As speculation grew, another name entered the conversation. Michael Feldman, Savannah Guthrie's husband. Feldman is not a public figure in the entertainment world, but he is deeply connected to politics. He co-founded the Glover Park Group, a Washington-based public affairs firm later absorbed into FGS Global. His background includes working in the Clinton-Gore White House, advising Al Gore, and operating inside the highest levels of Democratic politics. His firm has worked with major political figures, including Bill Clinton. Some of those names appear in Epstein-related documents. Not as suspects, not as criminals, but as part of the same professional ecosystem. That alone was enough to ignite online speculation. Was there a connection? Was it coincidence? Or was something being hidden in plain sight? To date, there is no evidence linking Feldman or Savannah to Epstein's crimes. None. But in the court of public opinion, proximity to power often feels like guilt. And timing, once again, became everything. The media enters the mystery. Then came another strange twist. TMZ confirmed receiving an unverified ransom note connected to Nancy's disappearance. Not the family. Not law enforcement. The media. Why would someone send ransom demands to tabloids instead of the people who actually control the money? It made no strategic sense. Which leads to another chilling possibility. What if the ransom was never real? What if it was just a distraction? A way to create noise while something else faded into silence. A personal story buried beneath a public storm. Lost in all the theories is a very human truth. Before this case became viral, before social media speculation and political connections, this was simply a family. Savannah met Michael Feldman in 2008 at a party. They didn't rush into marriage. In fact, they almost didn't get engaged at all. Years later, during a vacation, they reached a breaking point, either commit or walk away. He had already bought the ring. They married in 2014. Their daughter was born that same year. Their son followed in 2016. By all public accounts, they built a quiet, loving family. No scandals. No controversies. Just careers, parenting, and normal life. Even in 2022, when Savannah interviewed Amber Heard after the Johnny Depp trial, she openly disclosed that Feldman had previously done consulting work for Johnny Depp's legal team, showing how careful they were about transparency. That history makes the current speculation even more painful. Because now, Michael Feldman is no longer just a husband and father. He is a man whose name is being pulled into a mystery he never asked to be part of. And so the questions remain. Was Nancy kidnapped? Did she suffer a medical emergency? Was she the wrong person in the wrong house? Were the ransom demands real or staged? Is the Epstein timing pure coincidence? Or does this case involve something deeper that hasn't surfaced yet? Right now, there are no suspects. No confirmed motive. No final narrative. Just competing theories and a family waiting in silence. A grandmother went to bed in her own home. And the world woke up to a mystery that still refuses to let go. The most haunting part isn't what we know. It's what we may never know at all.